If I were to describe Stonecreek Church in one word, it would probably be the word safe. They made our entire family feel safe over the past few years.
I really loved that I felt at home, that my kids had a place where they felt at home, and that Stephen was speaking directly to me every Sunday.
Something I really love about Stonecreek is just the passion for the students. Everyone's just pouring into the youth.
Stonecreek is my second home, my second family, people that I can always go to.
I couldn't even imagine what life would have been without the people in Stonecreek.
It's amazing to know that there's someone who actually cares about you, that honestly, these are people that are really willing to walk with you toe to toe and do life with you.
That refining period is hard and it hurts and the suffering is hard. But in the end, he's going to give you something that no one can take away. Our faith would not be the same if it weren't for that experience of trusting him.
To be able to share that story is pretty amazing.
When you're going through tragedies and you feel alone, it's suffocation. I felt I was suffocating.
I'm crying at the table thinking, what did I do wrong from a parenting style? What did I do wrong from a husband style?
I decided that was it. I'm done. I'm giving up. I can't do this anymore.
My dad has been just absent since I was 10 years old. I overdosed, I think, 2 or 3 times. I had a family of gangbangers and criminals.
I was getting a divorce and I didn't know who to tell. And I was like, what am I going to do with a brand new baby and 2 teenagers by myself? I had $23 in the bank.
I need help. I can't do it. I need support.
This diagnosis stopped our world and nothing mattered.
And she answered the phone and asked if everything was okay. She said, no, it's Reagan. And I said, is the ambulance coming? And she said, no, we don't need an ambulance. He's already gone. How do we go beyond this moment in time? Without Stonecreek, my family would not have moved beyond December 14th, 2013.
So we went through this journey, and sadly, in 2012, we lost Lily to cancer. The celebration of life service that took place at Stonecreek was unbelievable. There was 2,500 people with candles lining the driveway that is the entrance to Stonecreek Church. And it was the most beautiful picture I've ever seen in my life of people who care and love, and that's Stonecreek.
If we needed someone to sit and pray with us after church, if we needed someone to come to our house and hold our hand, they did it. They did it all.
What drew me to Stonecreek was my best friend Svenja invited me.
My neighbor just keeps coming up to me offering, hey, there's a great church in the area.
All the people that said hi to me when I first walked in, that was awesome to me because I'm such an outgoing person. But it was everybody that loved on me, that cared about me, that called. It wasn't a week that went by that somebody didn't call and say, hey, what are you doing? Where do you need help?
And when you're feeling alone and you feel like you're drowning, you feel like you're suffocating, and somebody shows up and says, I'm here, I'm gonna help you, you take a breath.
I didn't know that I can get that from people at church. This group of people show up at my door. They came in, it was dark, I had my lights off because I was trying to save energy because my bills was due. And they said, we want to pray with you and we have gifts for you. The people there were so Jesus-driven, and they spoke over my life.
I'm meant to be here living for a purpose, for a reason, and that He has so much waiting for me in my future.
It would have been so much harder if they wouldn't have been here to help show us that God was trying to help us survive this and lead us past this moment in time, and that He would still bless us with good moments in time.
Those are my praying people, and that's who we count on and rely on. And they were right in there with us and in the battle, fighting for my child's relationship with God.
And for me, getting connected with other men, it was just amazing.
Being around brothers that actually are on fire for God taught me exactly what it means to do life with someone. No matter what's going on in my life, no matter where I'm at in life, they're there.
They had planned this huge baby shower, and I literally had everything a baby needs for the first 2 years of their life. It was nothing that I had to buy. And they had this huge basket of breakfast and gift cards and things for the kids. And I'm telling you, at that moment, I remembered that God was still there.
Stonecreek shaped my understanding what it means to love the Lord, what it means to know how to have a relationship with God.
At the Pause Retreat that Stonecreek has every year, my child, Gabriel, accepted Christ as his Savior.
It's amazing when you get a group of believers to go into war for your family.
They are in the fire with you, and they are showing you that God is in the fire with you.
Stonecreek has made me realize just how fun it can be to be a Christian. Loving others, and it's following God, and it's the most amazing journey that you'll ever go on in your entire life.
It doesn't matter if you're black, white, Chinese, Mexican, they're accepting, they're loving, and it's a Jesus-centered church.
They provided a place for us as a family and hear the message and know not only that God was there for us, but that always Stonecreek would be there for us no matter what we needed.
Stonecreek is not just church to me. They have given me back a joy that I had lost.
Stonecreek has really, really good people, being kind and loving, and they can take you from a place of darkness and show you the light. Stonecreek is making huge differences in people's lives. It's great to be a part of something like that.
It has been 20 years of life change, 20 years of pointing people to Jesus, 20 years of Stonecreek Church. As we stand at this intersection of past and future, of God's faithfulness and God's promises, it's the life-changing stories written over the last 20 years that are fueling our faith for the life-changing stories that will be written over the next 20 years. We believe God is getting ready to write stories beyond what we could ever imagine. Stories beyond what we could ever even dare to dream. There are people who are living beyond our reach, people who are living beyond our walls, people who feel beyond saving, who are still searching and still wondering what happens beyond this life. People that we don't even know yet, people we haven't even met. Somewhere, there's a young millennial who is starting his first job out of college, and he can't figure out why landing his dream job still leaves him feeling empty and alone. There's a single mom who is drowning in bills and stress and doesn't know how she's gonna make it beyond tomorrow. There's a church in Belgium that will never even begin. There's an 11-year-old Indonesian girl trapped in slavery and exploitation who's lost the life in her eyes and can't see the possibility of hope or freedom. There are so many stories that have yet to be rewritten by grace. So many people who have yet to encounter the outrageous love of Jesus. But Stonecreek, we haven't even scratched the surface of God's promise. We believe it's time to move beyond We see a church beyond church, a church whose one aim is to show the incomparable worth of Jesus to a world who desperately needs him. We see a church beyond here, a church beyond our walls, beyond our address, beyond our borders, and even beyond a prison sentence. We see a church beyond now, a church who advances now to make room for a generation and generations to come so that the kingdom doesn't shrink back on our watch. We see a church beyond us, a church that believes the mission of Jesus is way bigger than what our eyes will ever be able to see, and that we will only be told of in the beyond of eternity. This is going to take a church with generosity beyond compare, with love beyond limits, and with faith beyond belief. This church sounds like us, Stonecreek. It's time to step into the story of the next 20 years. It's time to step beyond.
Can we just celebrate all that God's done in 20 years? Come on. Man, it's been an amazing ride, an amazing journey, but now's not the time for tears. Now is the time to take new ground, Stonecreek. Let's go. Man, we have such a vision in front of us. God has done so much. And when God wants to take new ground, what he does is he calls people to move beyond. He calls people to move beyond their comfort zone. He calls people to stop looking in the rearview mirror. He calls people to move beyond their own life, to move beyond their own location, beyond their own financial situation. God calls people to move beyond because the mission is critical. So many people in this room have had your life changed here. Man, what if this place wouldn't have been here for you? Like, what if something would have happened and you wouldn't have been here and God wasn't able to work through this church? And so we have got to carry the mission forward. You know, God, whenever he sees the beyond, whenever he has new ground to take, he always calls the people to move beyond. This is the story of the Bible. You know, when we look even at the life of Jesus, Jesus leaves heaven to move beyond heaven to earth so he can move us beyond earth into heaven. Amen? Man, Jesus came, the author and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross and despised its shame, and now is seated at the right hand of God. This is the Savior we serve, and for all he's done for us, how could we do any less? You know, as we look at the story of the Bible, it's always a story of God moving people from something to something. And usually it's from slavery to freedom. You know, as you think about the Old Testament, you look at God's people, the nation of Israel, and he's moving them from slavery into freedom. And it's one of the great images we have of the work of God in our lives. The work of Jesus is this idea of releasing us from slavery, moving us into freedom. And so for this idea of beyond, this journey that we're going to be on, we're going to look at the nation of Israel as they move from slavery into the promised land, a place where God had prepared for them. And we're just going to look at their journey and how it impacts our own life. They were led by a guy named Joshua. You know, how many of you guys have heard of Joshua? You know, 3 of you. Let's go. Impressive. How about Moses? You heard of Moses? Okay, Moses isn't in this story. I just was checking. No. So Moses has led them out of slavery. Moses had died, and now they're on the verge, they're on the brink, they're at the crossroads, and they're moving to take new ground, to take the promised land. And this is a story that we have for us. So I just want to unpack a little bit of the story, but I also want to get into the nitty-gritty of what God's calling us to, the tactical and practical steps that we need to take. And it's going to feel a little bit like drinking from a fire hydrant. Like, how many of you have ever drunk from a fire hydrant? That's good. Today will be the first time. And so let's grab our Bibles. We're going to be in the book of Joshua chapter 1. I just want to unpack a few verses here, and then let's get into some of the specifics of beyond. In Joshua chapter 1, the Lord's speaking to Joshua, and he says this: after the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord said to Joshua, the son of Nun, Moses' assistant. So Joshua was Moses' assistant. He says, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now that feels like one of the moments where you go, duh, like I know this. But God wanted to be really clear that Joshua understood the gravity of his time and the magnitude of his mission. And he goes on to tell him, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now arise, go over this Jordan, you and all the people, into the land that I'm giving to them, to the people of Israel. Every place that the sole of your foot will tread upon, I have given to you, just as I promised Moses. Here's the lesson we learn. God has gone before us. God has gone before us. As we look at 20 years, God was there. As we look at the next 20, God is there and God's calling us forward. He is already there and he's asking us to do our part. He's asking us to step into this beyond with him. Verse 6, he says this, he tells Joshua, be strong and courageous. You shall cause this people to inherit the land that I swore or I promised to their fathers to give them. He was already there. God had already gone beyond. Verse 9, he says, have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Don't be afraid. Don't hold back. Don't be dismayed. For the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. God has gone before. And then in verse 13, it says, remember the word that Moses, the servant of the Lord, commanded you, saying, the Lord your God is providing you a place of rest and will give you this land. God has provided, God is providing, and God will provide. God is already moving. God is already in the midst of this. He's been in the midst of our lives for 20 years at this particular church, and God is moving us into the next 20 years, into the beyond. You know, what exactly is beyond? Beyond is advancing now for generations to come, right? It's not building buildings so that people will come and attend here. It's not building a monument to the pastor. It's not building, it is advancing now for generations to come. There are generations that don't know Jesus. As we've talked about many, many times, there's a millennial generation that has been forgotten by the church, that has looked at church and didn't feel like the church loved them, didn't feel like the church cared for them, and they feel forgotten. And they didn't just feel forgotten by the church, they felt forgotten by Jesus. And they need a church to come along and to breathe life into them and believe in them and to move past the stereotypes, to tell them how much God loves them. And there's Generation Y that comes along, and then there's the next generation, the Generation Alpha that nobody knows what to call them yet because we're not sure of the bad characteristics they have, because that's how you get labeled as a generation, right? The bad characteristics that you have. And so we need to advance now because we believe in the future generations. We believe that they are worth fighting for, and this is what we want to be about. Advancing now for generations to come. Now, what exactly is beyond? What's it going to take? Beyond is a 2-year journey of increased generosity to multiply our kingdom impact. It's a 2-year journey of increased generosity to multiply our kingdom impact. Now let's talk about this a minute. When the nation of Israel moves into the promised land, they don't just walk in and say, hey guys, we're here, everybody should move out. There's work and there's war. There's work and there's battle. And anything worth it is worth fighting for. Amen? Like, how many of you guys have fought for your marriage at times? The rest of you have fought in your marriage a lot of times. Man, we fought for relationships. We fought for justice. We fought for our rights. We fight for things that are worth it. And so we want to battle, and we know it's going to cost money. We know it's going to require all of us to lock arms together. Now, in Ephesians chapter 20, we get our marching orders for beyond. In Ephesians chapter 3, verse 20, it says, now to him, meaning Jesus, who is able to do far more abundantly, let's say this together, beyond all that we ask or think according to the power that works within us. To him be the glory in the church and in Christ Jesus to all generations, forever and ever. Amen. And God has called us to reach the generations. And if we're not intentional about it, we'll just continue doing the same thing we've been doing, and we won't adapt, and the church will lose another generation. And that shouldn't happen on our watch, Stonecreek. Not on our watch. Not as long as we are here in this community, not as long as we have resources and opportunities to see people rescued. This is what Beyond is about. And so I'm going to paint the picture in 4 different components of what this journey will be about. 4 different components that's going to help frame up what we believe God has called us to, the vision that we're moving into. And so the first one is Beyond Church. The first one is Beyond Church. You know, we want to accelerate our current vision beyond belief. What can tend to happen is that when you get something new, it's kind of like shiny object syndrome. You've ever had that? It's like squirrel, and you always go after that. But we know that what we're doing now, it matters. Man, our mission now matters. You've been reached through our current mission. So Beyond Church is just going to help us with to increase staffing dollars, to increase ministry dollars, so we can keep doing the ministry that we're already doing. We don't want to separate out Beyond and what we're currently doing. It is all Beyond. It is all the same mission. It's all the same vision. It's all the same direction. And so this is going to cover our operating budget. Our leadership development program is going to become an accredited ministry program. Let me just explain a little bit how this place works. So we've got an amazing student ministry. Did you know this? Like, anybody want to celebrate that right now? We've got an amazing student ministry. And what tends to happen is kids come to our student ministry and they give their life to Christ and they get towards the end of their high school days and they feel like God wants them to go into vocational ministry. And so we want to be able to provide training for them. You know, most industries now have gone to an apprenticeship program, an internship program. You spend a summer at least, if not a year, interning at a company in your specialized field of study. So for instance, some of you are teachers. How many teachers in the room today? Gosh, a lot of you. Man, you guys are like the unsung heroes of the community, aren't you? And so for most of you teachers, you spent at least a semester student teaching. And you got to the end of that and you thought, I'm never teaching again. And then you realized you spent too much money on education, so you just kept on teaching. But my daughter's a teacher, so I understand a little bit of that. But teachers have that opportunity to intern, to get on-the-job training. And so when I became a pastor, or when I decided to go into ministry, I went to Bible college basically, and I learned some good stuff, but I didn't get any practical hands-on experience. And so I just wanted this opportunity to be able to invest in young leaders, men, guys and girls, so that they could have opportunity to come in, be on our team, be part of and not just be interns to run and get coffee, but where they could do some legitimate, specialized projects. And so we've been able to launch our leadership development program, but it's really critical for our future. Because as we plant campuses and as we plant churches, we see kids who grow up in our kids ministry, that go to our student ministry, they're in our leadership development program, going and launching campuses, being pastors to your kids and your grandkids, being worship pastors and missionaries around the globe. We have them all over the place now, and we need to continue to breathe some more life into our leadership development program. We want to move church beyond Sunday. We want to move church beyond Sunday. Now what's happened in our cultures, we live in a time-shifting culture. You know, when Hillary, when we were younger, we probably knew the top three anchors on the three big networks, right, of the evening news. We would know their names, Walter Cronkite, guys like that. And now you'd be challenged to even know if we still have evening news. Am I right? Like, we don't know who they are. And things have time shifted for us. Content is moving beyond a specific time and into different areas. You know, when we were kids, my age, when I was a kid, on Monday, 83% of the kids in my school had watched the same shows the night before. 83%. And now that number is less than 20% because you can just binge watch The Office on Netflix whenever you want to. And so we, as a church, we've got to capitalize on that. We've got to create podcasts and content delivery system that move it off of 2 hours a week, 9:30 and 11. 9:30 and 11 are really important. You need to know that. You're never going to get away from that. There's got to be some face-to-face. God does something special in the context of worship. But we need to move content where people can continue to grow, because we're not about entertaining. We're about equipping. That's who we are. It's what we do. So that's what this means for us to move church beyond Sunday. And then a full-length Stonecreek worship album. I love what God's done in our worship environments over the last 2 years, don't you? Come on. Under the leadership of Patrick Casey. I love coming, man. It doesn't matter how many services we have, whether it's Christmas Eve, we have a bunch, or the two we have on Sunday. I'm always on the front row worshiping. I love what God's doing. And so we want to continue to develop that through a worship album. So let's say Beyond Church together. Beyond Church. This is the first one. The next one, Beyond Now. Beyond Now. You know, as we look at Beyond Now, we don't want to be just for this generation. We don't call our kids in student ministry the next generation. We call them the now generation, because we're invested. We believe they're the church of now, that we believe they've got just as much value as an adult. And so we need to renovate some of our space. We need to reorient some of our space here to serve our families better, to serve our kids better, whether it's on our nursery, pre-K, or even for our students. We need to do some work in this building to make it more conducive for them. We want to create multi-use outdoor space. Now, what you may not know is that we have 51 acres. Tommy mentioned it just briefly. We have 51 acres of property. We have the largest undeveloped tract of land in Milton, Georgia. Largest undeveloped tract of land in Milton, Georgia. And so what we want to do is not to just build a lot of buildings here, but we want to create space where people can drive on our property amidst the traffic and the phone calls and the cell phone and everything else that we've got going off in our head, where they can just go and just experience rest, what it means to slow down, what it means to hear from God. And we want to create that on this particular space. We also want to reduce debt. Now, let me talk a little bit about this. Now, on our property, we have $3.8 million in debt. Now, you're like, what's the context of that? I don't know. Well, that is, for us, $3.8 million, it's manageable. We could manage that, but it's sucking up dollars that could be spent in ministry. You know, it's sucking up resources where we could move into new areas and new frontiers, help more families, hire more staff to do more ministry. And so part of what we give is going to be help us to reduce that to free up dollars for the future. And then also worship engagement advancements. This one you're going to find a little funny. So in our environment now, this environment was built in 2004, okay? 2004. Do you remember what you were doing in 2004? No, you don't? No. Some of you are like, I wasn't born yet. I don't know. Facebook was created in 2004, the same year some of our equipment was installed. MySpace was a thing in 2004. The Razor flip phone was the most powerful phone you could get. 1 megapixel camera. Ooh, it was amazing. And this is how we listened to music in 2004. The old iPod. Do you guys even know what this is, right? You got it? You got it? Like, this is pre-video iPod. This is some of the equipment we have in here. Now, we're not saying that we should be the next Pixar Studios, but we are saying is we should be relevant. That one of the reasons why the millennial generation and others get left behind is because the church kind of comes in and says, it's good enough. Listen, and we need to be relevant so that we can reach people in a way that they're used to being reached in other areas of our community. So we need to upgrade our worship area. Man, another thing we need to do is to advance our online and accelerate our online engagement. We need to accelerate our online engagement. Did you know that 1 in 5 couples who get married meet online? You know this? And people over the age of 50 are like, that feels weird. Hey, it just feels real, right? This is a reality today. 90% of millennials are on social media. They used to say that in the first 5 minutes of someone entering your property is when they decided if they were coming back to your church as they drove into the parking lot. That's why you parking lot guys are so crucial. But now, you know how long it takes? 50 milliseconds when they look at your website. That's how they know if they're coming back. So we need to accelerate our online engagement. It helps us to move stuff off Sunday, and it helps us to reach a generation that grows up. It doesn't mean we sacrifice meeting together. And I'm not saying you necessarily, a lot of you are like, well, I don't even have social media. Hey, that's great. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you have it or not. Lost people have it. People who don't know Jesus have it, and we need to leverage everything we can to reach them with every tool we can come up with that God calls us to. Now, one of the things that's been an analogy I heard this week from one of the people in our church, they were talking about the age of our staff, and she was talking about, basically she's saying I was the oldest one, right? That's what she was saying, but it was kinder than that. She used jeans as the analogy. She says, you have like straight leg jeans, then you have slim fit jeans, then you have skinny jeans, right? And she says, you're the regular fit jean, or straight leg jean. She actually said boot cut. I adopted it straight leg. And she says, and you got a lot of skinny jeans people. And what she was saying was, we got a lot of young leaders. And here's what I believe about that. I believe that God's done that. And I believe the reason he's done that is because of what he's doing in our church for us to reach the next generations. And so I'm going to take a little pastor moment right now, just like Joey just did. And he knew this was coming because I did it in the first service. And of course, Joey's always got to one-up me all the time. But I just want to celebrate one of our young leaders, this guy right here. Come on, let's go. Joey loves Jesus as much as anybody you'll ever meet. Joey is a great husband to Kayla. Joey's a great dad to Raleigh, so much so it can be obnoxious at times. I'm kidding. But Joey's a great dad. Joey has vision. Joey has passion. Joey doesn't stop when he gets tired. He stops when he gets done. And Joey's leading the charge with this next generation of leaders. And so couldn't be more honored to call him my friend and for us to do ministry together. And God has just been bringing young leaders to us so that we can launch them out. So how many of you are over the age of 50? Be honest. Have some pride. Hold your hand up longer. I know it's hard because we're tired. All right, so for those of us over 50, listen to me really quick. Listen to what I got to say. This is really important. Man, we have this great opportunity right now to set up our church for the future. The leaders of our church for the future. We have this great opportunity, but we also have this great responsibility. We have this great responsibility. I believe God is looking at us saying, what will you do? Will you live beyond? Will you look beyond yourself, beyond your retirement, beyond your home, beyond your beach house? Will you look beyond that into the kingdom? And we need to set them up for success. We need to do the best thing we can do to help them be a launching pad, to remove any problems or barriers or anything that would hold them back so that they can move into the future. Now, we're doing this together, obviously, because even at 50, we still have a long way to go. Come on, somebody should celebrate that. But we know we want to do our part for this next generation as we move beyond now. Let's say beyond now together. Beyond now. Then we have beyond here. We're going to move beyond here. You know, the Great Commission that we talked about earlier says go into all the world. Jesus tells us as he leaves, he says, go Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, to the uttermost parts of the world. This is our call. This is what a church does. And anytime we don't do that, guess what happens? You shrivel up and you die. So we need to keep our eyes on the horizon of where God is calling us into the beyond here. Now, the first place we're going to go, obviously, is the Elevate City Church that we've been talking about in Sandy Springs. Joey's leading the charge down there along with Joe Baker and Thomas. And we know that Sandy Springs is one of the top 10 places for millennials to move in the United States. That in the fastest cities growing in the United States, Sandy Springs is the only one in Georgia in the top 10. That there is more happening, and there is not a church like ours in Sandy Springs. Now, I'm not saying that our church is better than any other church, but what I am saying is that our church is better than any other church. And we need to do what we can to help people come to know Jesus there. A lot of you are already engaged in going. Some of you, God has told to go and you haven't gone yet. Some of you have sold homes to move down there. Some of you have forfeited promotions so you can stay rooted in it. Yeah. And that is a movement of God, of people who are living beyond. We're going to Sandy Springs, as Joey would say, for a generation. Also, Elevate City Church in Metro Atlanta. We know we want to look into Atlanta. Obviously, there's a lot of people in Atlanta. We've got a few locations that we're identifying. We're not solidified on what that looks like, but we want people who are part of Elevate City to be trained up, experienced, so they can go and launch another campus in Atlanta. Now, beyond here, let me back up just 1 second. One of the things that I neglected to say is beyond here for us means that we're going to launch five campuses or churches in the next 5 years. Okay, 5. All right, yeah, come on. And so those are the first 2. Now this third one is an Elevate Church in Belgium. Belgium is less than 0.5% Christian. This one piece of information will tell you all you need to know about Belgium and how secularized and how dark and oppressive it is. In 2014, they had passed a law that legalized child euthanasia. If that doesn't make you go, like nothing will. How dark does a country have to be that would be okay ever? How off track and off course does a culture have to be where that would be allowed? And so we're going in so that we can tell people about the hope they can have and Jesus, the light they can have for their future. We also believe we're going to learn a lot being in that context because the United States is moving in that direction. I'm not saying necessarily laws-wise, but as far as secularization goes, we're headed that way, and it's going to help teach us a lot about that. We've laid some groundwork. It's time for us to take new ground in Belgium. Also, a prison campus. You know, we know that God looks at the marginalized, and he has a special heart for them. His heart beats for them. And he looks at people who move for them as moving for him. And so we want to go into a prison campus, and there's a few different ways that you can go about that. But we want to launch an an online experience in prison, as well as fund some dollars for a chaplain to be there. And so that one's on the way. And then this last one is a Compassion Church in Latin America. How many of you guys sponsor a Compassion Kid? Like look around the room, like lots of us. Some of you are over 50, your arms are tired. Lots of us sponsor Compassion Kids. Compassion's an amazing organization. They exist to release children from poverty in Jesus' name. And so when a Compassion wants to start a project, they look for a church because they only work through the local church. So when they go into a community that needs them and they don't have a local church, they can't start a project. Was that a popper going off over there? Security? What's up? No. And so they can't launch a project, right? They can't launch a project. All they can do is sit back and wait for somebody to launch a church. So they adopted a new strategy. And the new strategy is to go ahead, they'll start the church, and then they'll launch the project. Then you'll adopt kids, and then you can go on mission trips. So what we're going to do is we're going to launch a compassion church in Latin America, and we're going to fund that. And then you know what we're going to do, Stonecreek? We're going to adopt every kid in that project. And then after, come on. And then after we do that, we're going to take mission trips there, and we're going to build buildings, and we're going to build relationships. And so this will be our fifth campus, our fifth church that we'll launch through Beyond Here. Let's all say Beyond Here together. Beyond Here. And then finally, beyond us. Finally, beyond us. Beyond anything that we will ever see. We want to help support some of our strategic partners. We want to be able to help support what they're doing, the work they're already engaged in, the lives that they're already changing. You know, one of those, obviously, She Is Safe. She Is Safe helps release girls from human trafficking. They train them how to start businesses. They train them how to multiply and grow their businesses. Joey and Thomas and I had an opportunity to be there this last year in Indonesia. They also went into India. My wife's actually going to hopefully get to Indonesia next month. Operation Mobilization, and it's an opportunity we have. They're a partner that's helping us with Elevate Belgium and some of the other things that we're doing internationally. Envision Atlanta down in Clarkston. Clarkston is the most diverse square mile in the United States. Refugees from every conflict around the globe find their way to Clarkston from every major conflict. They've already launched 18 house churches in Clarkston, and we just want to help fuel what God is doing there. And then we also have Summit Counseling. Summit Counseling is where our staff member, Jason Howard, has worked. You know, Jason hit 40 and decided, or in early 40s, decided, I'll just go back to school and get a counseling degree. He's what you classify as an overachiever. But Jason has gone back, and Jason, this is not hyperbole, Jason is literally changing lives. Yeah, somebody should clap for that. So we want to be able to help partner with Summit Counseling and some of the great work that they're doing. Also, Verve Church in Las Vegas is a church that we've supported. It's doing some ministry, some difficult places. Some of those who are extremely marginalized that nobody really goes after. And we want to be able to help them take the next step in their own journey. So that is, let's say this together, beyond us. Beyond us. Beyond us. Now, what's this going to take? What's this going to take? That's what you want to know. You already looked at your book and tried to look ahead, didn't you? This is going to take about $10.25 million. Okay, $10.25 million. Now, let me bring some context to that, because maybe that's a lot, maybe it's not, who knows. Let me just tell you, this would be twice what we would give in a 2-year period, okay? Another way of saying that is that this is doubling what we would do in a 2-year period. Another way of saying this is take what we would give and multiply it times 2, and that would be $10.25 million. So over the course of 2 years, we would normally give, without any special initiatives, we'd give a little over $5 million. So what we believe is that we want to give over $10 million in the next 2 years. Now, here's what I believe. I believe that for some people are like, that seems like a lot. Some people are like, that doesn't seem like much. And some people are like, I can't believe you're talking about money at church. Listen, we got confetti on the floor. Money is not the biggest problem we got. But what I believe is I believe that this is going to help us move beyond. This is the beyond that God is calling us to. How do we do that? Man, we all participate. We want everybody to participate. Now, I know that some of you could write 7-figure checks. I know, and that's going to be needed. And I hope God's challenging you right now in the midst of that. And if you're thinking, oh, that's not me, maybe it is. For some of you, a 3-figure check would be life-changing. And it would be hard, and you'd have to sacrifice and give up. But I still would challenge even you, because I know the blessing of generosity. We just want everybody to participate. And we believe that if you'll just get in the journey with us, God's going to grab your heart for something, and He's going to use your life to write stories in the future like the ones we watched at the beginning of the sermon. We all participate. We all passionately pray. Without God in the middle of it, we'll fail. We won't make it. But with God, nothing is impossible. Man, look at our lives. Look at what Jesus has done. We have to pray and ask God to be a part of it. Hey, and we all promote the story. We all need to promote the story. If you haven't told anybody about the hope and the life-changing power in the name of Jesus, you're missing out on the great joy of life. And we need to promote the story in our groups, on our volunteer teams, in our community. And we need to come together to make this happen. You want to close out with one story from the Bible, and then I want us to worship on the way out to King of Kings. And I know we're late, but you know me, we don't normally run late. And lunch is waiting for you. It will be fine. And they know that your kids are screaming. They were prepared for that. So don't let it bother you, because this is important. In the Bible, my favorite story about giving is called the widow's mite. Anybody heard of the widow's mite? The widow's mite is a story where Jesus is in the temple and he's looking out, and as people are coming by to give, and the way it would have worked, it was a holy day, so there was a lot of people, and they would come by and they would dump their offering in these metal urns that were in the temple. And so people who had a lot of money, they'd come in and they'd put a lot of money and make a lot of noise. You know how sometimes people make a lot of noise? They would make a lot of noise because they wanted to be noticed. And so as Jesus is sitting there, first thing that we notice is he's watching their giving. Watch what happens. It says in this verse, it says, Jesus looked up and he saw the rich putting their gifts in the offering box. He's watching. I don't think he was just watching then. I think he's watching now. This isn't just for 2,000 years ago. This is for today. So he's watching the rich put their offerings in the offering box. And then he saw a poor widow putting 2 small copper coins. And he said, do you think anybody noticed that, really? After all the noise and all the clanging and all the money, ain't nobody noticed these 2 coins going in. They wouldn't. It was too much noise happening. They wouldn't have even noticed this widow walks by. But Jesus does. And he says, this poor widow has put in more than all of them. Clearly he can't do math because that's not what happened. But then he explains it. They all contributed out of their abundance, but she, out of her poverty, put in all that she had to give. Like, that's a powerful story. Now, the reason why it's so powerful for me, that widow's story, that's my mom's story. Like, my mom worked 2 jobs, 12, 14, 16 hours a day, just so that she could make ends meet. Man, my mom would go and pick up kids who didn't have a way to church, and she'd take them to church. She was always living beyond herself. And then my mom gets today, the year where she's going to turn 80, she gets to sit in our services and hear about a vision that's going to impact hundreds of thousands of people. And she can know that she sowed seeds into that vision back when I was just a little boy. Come on. So I have to ask myself, what about me? With that is my history, with that is the example I've had. And then you have to ask yourself, with all the people that have gone beyond for us, how could we do any less? Let's get in this journey together, Stonecreek, and let's see what God will do in the beyond of eternity. Let's pray together. God, we are just grateful for the gospel. And God, I pray that in these next few moments as we worship the King of Kings, that you're honored. And God, I pray that we would see beyond a service, beyond a presentation, to the beyond of people's lives and the beyond of the gospel. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. Hey, let's stand together and finish out strong in worship today.